everyone, I'm Wendy, and this is Show Me Mo Vegan, where I make easy, whole food vegan meals. And today, I'm making a really simple Instant Pot meal for you. But if you don't have an Instant Pot, no worries, you can cook this on the stovetop or even in a crock pot. Whenever lunch or dinner rolls around and I don't know what to make, I like to take my mom's advice. She always says, beans, greens, and grains. We try to get those in with every meal, and this recipe reminds me of that because I have beans and greens in the Instant Pot and then I serve it over some whole grains. This is also a great meal for the new year because we're using black-eyed peas. In my family, we often had black-eyed peas at New Year's, but I love black-eyed peas so much that I eat them any time of year. That's enough talking. Let's go ahead and get it going. So I'm gonna start with my black-eyed peas. I have a cup of dried black-eyed peas. You don't even have to soak them, especially if you're using an Instant Pot. It'll have no problem cooking them through. However, if you do ever have any digestive issues with beans, I would recommend soaking them overnight and discarding the soaking water. If you're cooking it on the stovetop or a crock pot, you wouldn't need to soak them either, but you might still want to soak them anyway, just to make sure the beans are cooked all the way through in a reasonable amount of time. Next, I've already prepped my veggies. I have some onion, carrots, and celery, so I'll dump that in. And you can chop these as large or small as you like. I just did kind of like bite-sized pieces of the celery and the carrot, but you could chop it smaller. If I'm in a hurry and I'm cooking on the stove, I will chop my vegetables smaller so that they cook faster. And if you don't feel like chopping, you could absolutely use a couple bags of frozen mirepoix blend, which is just a blend of the carrot, celery, and onion that you can find at most grocery stores. Next, I have some Yukon Gold potatoes, and you can use any kind of potato you like. I originally did this recipe with the Yukon Gold, but I've also used sweet potatoes, and that works great as well. It changes the flavor a little bit, but it's still good. Next, I have all of my herbs and spices, and I will have the recipe linked in the description box down below, so you'll have all of the exact amounts. But I have things like parsley and thyme, some garlic, cumin, smoked paprika, and chili powder, and then also a no salt seasoning. Or if you use salt in your cooking, you could go ahead and use salt. I also am using a bay leaf, so just remember to take that out before you eat. Then we need our greens. I'm using some dino kale. This is some kale that I got at the farmer's market earlier this year, and I had too much that I couldn't use throughout the week, so I chopped it up and froze it. So I'm putting in about the equivalent of one bunch of kale. And you can use any kind of greens you like. Collard greens, spinach, Swiss chard, all of those would be great options. And you can also wait until the very end and just wilt the greens in after everything's already cooked. There'll be enough heat there to cook it through. I like to have my kale a little bit more cooked though, so I'm gonna throw it in now. And if you're using store-bought frozen greens, I would also throw them in now just so they have time to defrost and cook through. For the liquid, I'm using a box of low-sodium vegetable broth. So we'll pour all of that in. This is 32 ounces. You could also just use 4 cups of water if you like. Or if you make your own broth, you could of course use that as well. I'm gonna stir everything around just a little bit. It doesn't really need to be mixed up. I just wanna get those spices kind of mixed in a little bit. And then last but not least, I'm using tomatoes. Usually I just use one of the larger cans, which is about 28 ounces, or one of the boxes that I think are 26 ounces. I didn't have any of those today though, so I'm just using 2 regular 14.5-ounce cans of diced tomatoes. And I'm pouring those on top, but I'm not going to mix them in. Sometimes when you're cooking tomatoes in your Instant Pot, if it gets down to the bottom, it can give you the burn warning, so it's a good idea to just throw the tomatoes on top. If you're new to Instant Pot cooking or you're thinking about getting one, you can check out my video on how to use the Instant Pot, where I walk through all of the steps of a test run and show you exactly how it works. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and put the lid on. Depending on your model, it will already seal, or you might need to turn it to the sealing position. I'll set it to pressure cook for 15 minutes. So this may take 15 to 20 minutes to come up to pressure. then it'll cook for 15 minutes, and then you could do a quick release, but I usually just let it do a natural release. So I'll see you back here when it's done. My stew is done cooking now. It actually did end up taking about 25 minutes to come up to pressure, and that's probably because my kale was frozen. So if you're using frozen ingredients, it'll take a little bit longer to come up to pressure. And then I let it natural release for about 15 to 20 minutes, and then I did a quick release for any remaining pressure. I always like to keep some whole grains cooked in my fridge, but I actually didn't have any today. So instead, I pulled out some already cooked rice from the freezer. So I have that here, and I just microwaved that, and I'll add my stew on top. Time for the taste test. I'm gonna try to get a little bit of everything. So I've got a little bit of potato, carrot and celery, some beans, greens, and I think that's everything. It's still really, really hot. Don't wanna burn my mouth. This is so simple and comforting. When I originally came up with this, I called it cozy stew, and that's really what it is. It's just something you would want to cuddle up with on a rainy day. This is so delicious and easy to make. Plus, it's really healthy for you. Again, I'll leave a link in the description box below so you can have the full recipe. I'll also include instructions for cooking it in a crock pot or on the stove top. I hope you'll give this a try. Let me know in the comments if you do. And of course, don't forget to hit the thumbs up. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.